Hey everyone, welcome to Youth Bombs. I'm Craig.
I'm Holden.
I'm David.
And we're the voice of young conservatives in Alachua County. In Brazil, the Supreme Judge, Alexandre Moraes, has censored X. It is banned in the entire country. If you try to use a VPN to access X, you are fined $8,900. Does this line up with what a free society should be? I don't think so. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely not. It's an infringement on property rights. Just like if I want to exchange goods or services with a company, I should be able to do that as long as I'm not committing a violent crime. So obviously, if you want to use X, you should be able to use X regardless. So is it in line with the free society? Absolutely not.
I agree. I think that also a lot of people are getting their information from X because everything can be posted there, and there are fact checkers, but you can post like anything you want, like things that the mainstream media won't post. You see videos that the mainstream media aren't passing through it, and I think that it's extremely harmful towards Brazil that they're not allowing their citizens to have Twitter or X. And I think that it actually shows that they're afraid. They're afraid of the ideas of freedom and liberty, the ideas that they could have a better society, which has better social mobility, which has more American values, and that they're afraid that the people are going to find out just how bad the government truly is. Because I'm telling you that if they're censoring X or Twitter, then they are definitely their media is definitely going to be kind of biased because they're clearly not for free speech.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And just to take us through a bit of the timeline here, in 2022, Brazil held a very close presidential election. President Bolsonaro, who is similar to President Trump, was in office. However, this judge took things out of the president's hands in terms of even being able to question the process of the election or the election itself. So looking at how it's entirely electronic voting, no, you can't question that. Wanting to do an audit, no, you can't do that. So this judge is acting like a dictator in Brazil, punishing the people, putting his hammer down and acting in conjunction with Lula da Silva, who's the new president of Brazil. This is being done with Lula's blessing, and the Democrats in America are silent on this because I think it's what they want to see. They want to see X banned in America, or at least they'd like to see their critics banned on X, because we know that they celebrated when President Trump was taken off X. We know that it was done when his supporters were taken off X and other related social channels. So clearly there's a strong desire for censorship. Now, Brazil is a very large country, about 14th largest in population. So they are joining the ranks of countries like North Korea and Iran in censorship. It's really sad to see because Brazil was ranked as a major non-NATO ally. And now we're seeing mass censorship and direct violations of their constitution that guarantee freedom of political expression. So clearly, things are going wrong, and Elon Musk is taking them to task. Have either of you seen what Elon is doing?
Yeah, Elon Musk is providing everybody that uses Starlink in Brazil service for free. So that was big of him to do that. So that was big of him for sure.
And I think something that a lot of people aren't talking about is that before Elon Musk took X, there was no mainstream media platform that you weren't censored in. Like the conservative movement was censored everywhere. You had Instagram, Facebook, Twitter before Elon Musk took it. Everywhere it was censored, and you could see that President Trump was taking out a lot of those platforms, and a lot of people with different opinions, conservative opinions, were also taken out of those platforms. We also saw that through YouTube, which is why Rumble got made so that free speech could live. I think that a lot of people are siding with the free speech movement. We see this going on in the U.S., where a lot of people are now using alternative platforms like Rumble. X is one of the fastest social media growing platforms in the world, and it might actually be the fastest right now. And we also see this in Latin America, in South America, I think so, because Javier Milei won an election. And before Argentina was it had socialist policies, these were the people running it. It was incredibly leftist. And we have a person who is conservative, who is more libertarian, who won the election. There's definitely a shift in the culture. People are seeing the value of free speech, the value of conservative ideals, and they're taking their countries back.
Absolutely. And not to mention that we're seeing, for instance, President Bolsonaro was banned from running for office in 2026 for questioning the results of the 2022 election. So there's a heavy hand on democracy in Brazil. And this banning of X/Twitter was done just ahead of their October elections. So clearly, they do not want the opposition to have a voice. They do not want you to speak out against Lula or this judge. It's all about silence and sticking to the party line. Some have advocated for Section 230 reform in the United States, which would establish these quote-unquote platforms as publishers. In doing so, it would significantly restrict what could be censored in the country because you wouldn't be able to selectively take down figures for disagreeing with you. The size of these effective oligopolies is so large, I think it should be done. Do you agree?
No.
Disagree? Okay.
Vehemently disagree. If a company, I'm pro-choice. If a company wants to not have a customer, that's their choice. I don't have to take you as a customer if I don't want you, right? So, and I don't have to buy your product or service if I don't want to. So if someone's using their platform who they don't want them to use, it's their right to say you can't use it. The government has no role here.
I see that. I think that these companies are so powerful that they need to be reined in, that they have too much power and influence. Their market caps are larger than many countries, and we need to look at breaking some of them up and restricting their power because it's a negative for the good of our country and a negative for speech. These are used as speech platforms, and effectively people are silenced constantly for disagreeing with the corporate media for dissenting opinion. So in my opinion, we rein them in because we need to prioritize the little guy's voice in protecting free speech, and that's how it's going to be done. The companies won't do it themselves, so there are times when the government has to step in. David, what do you think?
I think that you are right in the sense that the little guy is now being taken advantage of by all these big corporations. And I think that's something that the U.S. has done in the past, is actually limit corporations in favor of allowing social mobility to take place, in favor of actually allowing more of a free market economy.
It was the opposite.
Limiting corporations, because corporations have, like, if corporations get too much power and they're able to have too much of an influence on the government, then you're also not allowing small business owners, like, in order to have that much of power.
The reason we have businesses is to deliver goods and services to consumers. The reason a company gets big is because they do that very well. So to the extent that a company is able to deliver a product or service that's compelling enough to attract customers profitably, that's not a bad thing. That's a great thing. They create wealth for people, they create jobs, and they benefit the economy tremendously. We could talk about the little guy. Just because you're the little guy doesn't mean you're virtuous, right? So it doesn't really. It's not the government's role to be involved in that. All the antitrust laws, we need to repeal them. They were all a disaster.
What about, say, a century ago for companies like Standard Oil? Would you have preferred to keep them as is, or would there be a place to break them up?
Standard Oil was what the reason Standard Oil became the powerhouse that it was is because they were very good at what they did. So there's nothing wrong with Standard Oil creating all this innovation in the energy industry. So I don't see anything wrong with Standard Oil being a big company if they earned that. It's not like they took money from people against their will. There were voluntary transactions where they became one of the biggest companies in the entire world. And so, I mean, just because you're big doesn't mean you're bad. Just because you're successful doesn't mean you should feel guilty about it. In fact, it's generally the opposite. If you got rich in a free market, it's because you provided value to people, and we should celebrate that. We shouldn't. Why should we take away from what they did?
Generally speaking, I don't necessarily support, oh, this company is big, let's break it up, or I don't support just redistributing wealth. I think that people earn their money. That's fantastic. That's great. And yeah, that should be celebrated. But at the same time, just as there are checks and balances on government power, you have to have checks and balances on corporate power, because it can be just as, if not more, destructive with the association between government and lobbyists.
I agree. I think that monopolies are heavily dangerous. We can also see this through Disney, which owns Fox, CNN, MSNBC, all of our mainstream media. They have it basically, like, the influence of the culture. They can influence the culture the way they want to. And we also see, like, I heard something about Disney World, like, not being taxed. Like, now they have an incentive to do what the government wants, because the government's not going to give anything away for free. If they're not accepting money, then they're going to ask you to go ahead and do them a favor, like to give them something of value. So my question is, what exactly is Disney giving the government when they have all the power of all the news sources, our shows, our movies?
Disney employs people. They create wealth. They have stockholders that are millionaires. I mean, Disney is creating wealth for the economy. They're creating compelling products and services. That's why they're in business. This whole anti-corporate nonsense, nobody has to buy anything from Disney. They're not forcing you to buy anything. If you don't want to shop at Disney, don't go to Disney. The government, on the other hand, they have to forcefully take your money. You have no choice. It's violence at the end of it. If Disney, through voluntary transactions, got rich in a free market, we should celebrate that. Why would it be the government? You can't compare that. They have to steal your wealth. They have to confiscate your wealth in order to get it. So yeah, this is it's horrible. We need corporations. If they want to do something, they should have the right to do it, as long as they're not harming anyone else.
I see that perspective, though I think that you can have corporations like they are now working together to influence policy, the government, the narratives, etc. So they have their own collusion that they're doing and are able to shift that in a way that benefits them at the harm of the rest of the country. Now, that's really hurting the little guy out there, who I think you have to have some respect for, and you have to at least give them a platform and enable the smaller people to succeed. That being said, thank you everyone so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Additionally, feel free to reach out to us at youthbombs@alachorepublicans.com, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much.